recording. So Barry, tell us, how did you get into nutrition?
Well, I started off nutrition. My background in nutrition starts in chemistry. Spent 4 years in UCD studying Bachelor of Science. Did my major in chemistry with a bit of biochemistry. Started off working for pharmaceuticals. Started off making drugs. Spent a couple of years doing that, working in the pharmaceutical industry. Was always into nutrition. I was always into health. Started getting into endurance type sports like triathlon, running, and then kind of just started combining my interest in science and nutrition with sport. That led to a move to going back to college and doing a master's in sports nutrition in Loughborough. So did my master's and then started up my own practice, and been working now independently as a nutritionist, as a sports nutritionist or a performance nutritionist, whatever you want to call it, for the last just over 3 years now.
Okay, great. How can nutrition help an athlete?
Okay, so my approach to nutrition is a little bit different to the average. It's first of all, what I focus on is really improving the general health of an athlete. Most people have got there's a lot of grey areas associated with nutrition, and what I try and do is dispel a lot of the myths. And what that leads to is improving just general aspects of health in terms of just sleep and digestion and mood and immunity. And by focusing on getting those things kind of correct and fixed, starting off with, then the other things follow in terms of the athlete starts to train better, feel better, adapt better, and then ultimately perform better. So a lot of my nutrition is geared towards just general health and improving just general nutrition and the way people eat on a day-to-day basis. I do then obviously focus on the whole performance aspect of nutrition, so training adaptations and how nutrition can improve the way the body improves its general fitness, whether that be aerobic or anaerobic capacity or strength or any of the kind of fitness parameters. So after, the key to it all is to improve a person's general health and general nutrition habits. What follows then is improving the performance aspect of it, so improving how the person's body adapts to the certain training session. And that's then based on what the person is doing, what the type of training they're doing, the volume of training they're doing, the intensity of the training they're doing. So I really focus then on the individual in terms of what they're actually doing and at the time of the day they're actually doing it at. And then I try and structure their nutrition around that actual type of training, so that they parallel how they train or how they eat with how they train. So you have a kind of a synergistic effect then of training and nutrition, because a lot of athletes spend a lot of time focusing on just training, and they let the nutrition side of things just fall to the side or eat in a very much of a plateau. So they're training differently on a day-to-day basis, but they are eating very similar on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of my advice and a lot of what I try and change with an athlete's diet is I try and make the way they eat parallel the way they train, so therefore they get bigger effects and bigger adaptations then from the actual training that they're doing. So this is the kind of untapped resource that most athletes have, in that they've got the training right, they've got the equipment, they've got the right bikes, they've got the right gear, they've got the right Garmin watches, but their nutrition is left to the side and is in a plateau. So my whole goal with nutrition for athletes is to tailor their nutrition to match the way they train, so that they adapt better and then ultimately get fitter, and then ultimately just improve their performance.
Great. If there was one piece of nutritional advice you could give an athlete, what would it be?
Well, I suppose one of my areas that I have focused on for the last couple of years is how, particularly when it comes to endurance athletes, is how you can improve your fuel efficiency. So this kind of stands for most athletes, in that most athletes will benefit by making their bodies more fuel efficient in the way that they produce energy. So specifically that comes down to how their body is adapted to using fat more as a fuel. So it's called fat adaptation. So the more fat adapted athlete is to the way they produce energy, generally the better endurance capacity they will have, the better aerobic gains that they will get, and ultimately even the better general health they will have, because it means that they will be less reliant on carbohydrates. They will improve their insulin sensitivity and their and how the function of how insulin works. And then when it comes to performance, and when it comes to proper ultra endurance type events, whether that be cycling, triathlons, Ironman, one of the biggest areas that you can improve your performance through is by increasing the rate or the pace at which you can perform at by utilizing fat more as a fuel than carbohydrate. So nutrition has a huge effect on how that works. So if you can change your nutrition to make you more efficient at burning fats, then you will become all round a better athlete, but also in terms of your general health and long-term health, you get much better long-term gains. So there are lots of other things that you could nitpick at, but the biggest gain you can get from nutrition, if I was asked what one thing I could change with an athlete's diet, would definitely be their ability to use fat as their predominant fuel, specifically when it comes to endurance sports.